This is Banging on the Drum. It is another beautiful day in West Central Wisconsin, and welcome to episode 143 of Banging on the Drum. Please remember to go out there, like, subscribe, download, share with your buddies, do all that good stuff. Mike, I got thrown off by having to put everything in there, but as always, I'm your host P Dog, joined alongside with our co-host M Dog. How you doing today?
Doing well. So today we're going to be breaking down the Bucks and the Badgers basketball teams. Just kind of getting into it with I forget
Kerry Blue Kevin,
Kerry Blue Kevin,
and then K9 Kyle. So Kerry Blue Kevin is our friend that has went to the most Badger games that we know, and K9 Kyle is our friend that has gone to the most Bucks games that we know. That's how we get our experts these days.
Yeah, that's about right. Anyway, going to be breaking that stuff down, really getting back into the swing of things. How did you do? Did you watch any Bucks games? Were either of them nationally televised?
That's a good question. I definitely watched the one that was nationally televised most recently because I did a write-up on it. So I think I'm 1 for 1 in that.
I am 2 for 2. I think that I missed some of the game on
Blazers. Yep, because Dame went back to
yeah.
Portland, so that one's nationally televised. So yes, I did see that one front to back. But you said you're 2 for 2?
Yep, 2 for 2. I watched, I think, all but 3 minutes in the first half of both, probably. So
yeah, no, I caught both Nebraska and Purdue basketball games. One thing interesting that I found out is Mike is a complete psychopath. He's the person that has 32,000.
No, 3,200 emails. 3,200. Yeah, unread emails in my personal account. My work account is clean. I have emails in there. We're not gonna be crazy or nothing. I don't delete emails very often, but I read every email I get at work. And then my personal account, I got 3,200 emails in there. But if you want to email me, that'd be unique, and I'd probably not see it, and then it would be sitting there until it got deleted.
Yeah, so we're trying out this new platform again. We didn't get the video out last week, but I was like, Mike, I emailed you the link so you can get right on there and you can look at the stuff too. And Mike said, I have 32,000 or 33,200 unread emails. Blew my freaking mind. But yeah, I think that is psychotic.
They're all shit that I don't need, except for there's probably 30 emails in all of that I would even dare to care about.
Dude, I just couldn't even handle having that much red on my screen. I guess there's a couple things that I let be red and out or red the notifications or whatever. But yeah.
So that one's tucked in a tiny folder in my phone. So in my phone, it's in a small folder. It has 2 things in it.
So you don't have to see the red every day?
No, doesn't even tell me.
I
might have my notifications turned off for my emails too.
Okay.
Because I don't like red on my screen, my home screen.
That might make it easier for me to ignore all that. I'm going to announce my one big life change. I think I turned into I'm going to pour my beer in a glass guy with Miller Lite at the very least. For some reason, I've been drinking a couple Miller Lights. Miller Lite is better out of the glass.
Okay. I mean, so you and I have different opinions on canned glass, bottles, plastic, right? So at least Sundrop, you're a bottles guy and I'm a cans guy, which I can't really understand why anybody would want it out of the bottle, but I mean,
I don't know. It just tastes better to me. But we're going to do this. This is a 5-minute intro. We got 15 seconds left. Like Mike said earlier, we're going to be going to the Bucks with K9 Kyle. Well, first we're going to go to the Badgers with Kerry Blue Kevin. Bucks, K9 Kyle. Then we got a little Badgers talk, a little Packers. We got defensive coordinator. So that is what we're going to be doing with this show. So stay tuned. And the next thing you will be hearing is our interview with Kerry Blue Kevin. Now, welcoming to the show, UW-Madison graduate, 2006 handstand champion, 2008 tractor pull participant, our buddy who's been to the most Badger games of any of our other buddies this year, Kerry Blue Kevin Anderson. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing good. Good to be back on the show, guys.
Good to have you back.
Yes, we're glad. Yeah, for sure. Because we have tuned out most of the Badger season. I think I've caught, since the football season's been over, at least for the Packers, we've been pretty plugged in. But we're bringing you in here to give us the rundown of how the season's gone so far. So that is going to be your responsibility. I do have some questions. I don't know if you looked at the ones that I sent to you.
Yep. Yeah, I got it.
And Mike, do you want to rip the questions? I don't want to
Y-
take the whole.
Yeah, I'll take some of them. So Kevin, how many games have you been to?
Today was my 5th one, so
So you did make it today. Nice.
yeah, I had to buy these tickets. My wife gets tickets from her old boss's boss, who's a snowbird and lives down in like New Mexico or something. So he gives us free tickets, really nice tickets above the first level tunnel of the Badgers. So we went to a bunch of Big Ten ones. The best game we went to before this one was Michigan State. But yeah, so far this year has been a good one for Badger basketball. It's been a little bit up and down lately, but overall, like the team's pretty strong and like they're very deep this year compared to the last few years. So they have a lot of talent, and I can get into that a little bit. But yeah, been to 5 games, and the Kohl Center's starting to pick up back kind of where it used to be as far as atmosphere. The kids are back in school now, so um, there's a lot more energy in the student sections. Really good. I don't know if you could hear it on TV today, but they did a bunch of "fuck Zach Edey" chants like 5 times. So I don't know if you can hear
Yeah,
that.
I
I
don't
didn't.
think that came through on the
Not on my
mics.
broadcast, but on mine, like we had ours turned down pretty low. We were with a bunch of people. So the environment's turning like a little bit more towards what it used to be, which was like the Grateful Red. Now I did notice that they call them like Area Red or
Yeah,
something
it's
like that
area
now.
red now. I don't know why they changed it. I don't know if it was a copyright thing or if they were just trying to rebrand. It's a little weird, but they do some new like chants and like they like tear up these newspapers and throw confetti on the first bucket that we make, and they're good. Like so, the first game I went to this year was Tennessee, and that was a good game, but we lost. And Tennessee's top five, so they're really good this year. Um, and then I went to a couple other Big Ten games, but it was a little bit quiet when the students weren't in session, but they were back a couple of weeks ago. So since then, it's been pretty electric. Today was awesome. Obviously, we didn't get the win, but it was a good atmosphere and it was loud the whole time, which was sweet.
So how do like people around town feel about the team?
Yeah, I think people are really optimistic this year. Like, I think we knew that we had some talent. Some people have stepped up, and we had a big transfer, AJ Storr, who's originally from Rockford, Illinois. He played for St. John's last year, but he's been one of our best scorers this year, and he reminds me of Londo Tucker, where he's got a good bounce. Like he can dunk it. He can shoot a little bit. It's a little awkward. Like today, it really hurt him because he had some bad shot selection. He's been awesome. I think people feel good about this team. Like we're more deep than we have been in the past few years. So we play like between 8 and 10 people a game, which is really uncharacteristic. Usually we play 7 or 8. But this year, like scoring comes from all over, and people have been sharing the ball really well, and like different guys have stepped up in different games. So again, I think we feel like this. Like people would say that this team obviously doesn't go to the tournament, but think we can make a run in the tournament. It just depends because, as you guys know, it's like same old Badger basketball when it comes to we can hang with anybody, but we can also lose to anybody. So it's a little stressful that way.
Go scoreless for about 5 minutes there on a
Yeah,
stretch.
just like the Nebraska game the other day. So obviously they were up like 18 or 19, and
I think the
I,
top
I
was
was at
19.
yeah I was at trivia, and I left at half from trivia to go home and got back and it was tied. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, I mean they've beat some good teams. They beat Virginia. They beat Michigan State twice, which we haven't done since like 03, 04. So they've done some good things, and they've hung with the tough teams too. But they haven't got like they beat Marquette. That was their best win this year. But besides that, they've just come short in a Purdue game today, and then a game earlier this year that they could have won too.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in real quick. So the first real game that I got to lock into was the Nebraska game. And to your points, it seemed like there was a good section where, Chucky stepped up and scored 7 in a row. And then Klesmit hit like 7 in a row or whatever, 6 in a row or 6 points. And then Storr went off there for a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess my question is what happened with a Asigian where it seemed like it was pretty go to a Asigian when we needed some scoring last year. Whereas I guess he played more today than I seen him play in the Nebraska game, but like that blew my mind because I expected to tune into the Badgers in a season just to have taken another step forward, and that's why this team went from beginning of the season none ranked and then where we are now.
Yeah,
Sorry, that was long.
yeah. So he's still a bucket. Like he can shoot, but the start of the year was a little rough for him. Like his shooting wasn't there. He got banged up, hurt a little bit early on. And then defensively, he was just a sieve. Like guard even said it a couple times. He's not guarding to what we need him to guard to. Like, and he'd shoot a bunch and not make it. So if you have a shooter who's not playing defense and not making his shots, it's kind of hard to play. Klesman's really stepped up this year. Like he had the last month he's been on fire, and just every game he's been kind of that guy, and he plays good defense. So like he's basically taken Connor's minutes, and so it sucks. I mean, Connor's come on more of late, and so his shooting and scoring is still there. He's been playing better defensively too, so he'll keep getting more minutes. But we just haven't needed him because guys like Store and Klesman have stepped up. And it's unfortunate because like if he keeps losing playing time, he might transfer or something next year. But I mean, I think he's a team guy and he's done a good job like hanging in there, and the crowd's really supported him. He's a fan favorite, but we haven't needed him as much this year. So it's good that we're deep enough to where he doesn't have to play so much and we can still do good. But it'd be good for him to kind of make more shots and get back into the rotation a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, I don't even know where to go with that. That was a good answer. But yeah, Mike, I'm cut. Don't worry, I'll cut some of this stuff out of there.
So what's the best thing to say about this team where you would sound like I've been watching every game, right? So like what's the smartest thing I can say about this team that makes it seem like, oh, you've been tuning in since early December or late November, whenever they start?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it a couple times, but their depth, like every night, you don't know who's going to be the leading scorer, and Store usually will be, but there's been guys like Klesman who have been hot, and Corral's had some good games, Wall's had some good games. So really, like anybody can step up, and like you need a team to go deep in March. You need them to be deep and not just be one dimensional. And we're really not one dimensional. Like we've been scoring more than past Badger teams, and so our offense has been pretty good for our standard, and we've been shooting it pretty well. Like I think last year we were last in free throw percentage, and I haven't checked today, but we've been up at the top of the Big Ten in free throw percentage. So really, I think if you hadn't been watching the team, like just the depth and like the fact that we have a lot of guys who are good and like our core is still there, and then Store has just been added that has helped things a lot. Like I think we're a good team and we're close to being great. I don't know if we're gonna go to the Final Four or anything, but I think we can definitely make a run in the tournament and possibly the Big Ten tournament too. So I'm optimistic. Again, I think we have a lot of good talent and a lot of depth. But yeah, I don't have any other like nuggets besides Klesman had a game where he had like 22 straight points or something of the Badgers. So like
Yeah, something
that was
crazy.
one of the most fun games I've seen in the last few years. Just seeing someone hit every shot, it was nuts. I was there for that game, and it's electric to see someone like just bang shot after shot.
So you just say this team's deep and they shoot 76% from the line.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a recipe to tournaments. Like,
Well, so I
Yeah.
was actually thinking the opposite, that you're like, if you're playing 10 guys, if you're 10 guys deep, generally you're going to cut it down to 7 or 8 come tournament time, right? You're going to play your best
Yeah.
7 or 8. Who are the odd men out?
Carter Gilmore. I mean, he's like one of the less talented guys in the team, but he plays really good defense and rebounds really well. So like he's just someone you need to like play minutes so that you don't rack up fouls on Corral and Wall. So he's someone that like as long as they're not in foul trouble, he won't play as much. And then it just probably depends on what guard's going to play. So like if Klesman's having an off night, Connor will probably step in. And then we have really good freshmen too. I haven't even mentioned John Blackwell. He's a freshman that has been a stud that was decently touted, but not like a high 4-star. I think he was a 3-star from Michigan. So anyway, like, yeah, it's tough because I think they're going to roll with 8 people probably in the tournament, and they're just going to have to ride the hot hand. But I think because everyone can play and shoot a little bit too, like they don't have to have just that one guy. And Store's going to be their main scorer. So he's their dynamic player. He's someone that has NBA potential. But then they still have their guys that they can go to. So I'm long-winded way of saying I don't know who they're going to cut like minutes wise. I think they're just going to have to ride the hot hand. And I guess another thing too that I haven't mentioned either is Chucky has been way down in scoring this year, but he's been running the offense really well and still playing good D. So he's a guy who's like still clutch, still a guy you want, but his offense has been down of late, but he can run the team pretty well. So we don't need him to be the main guy anymore, which is nice because I think other people are more talented than him. So
all right, so you were at the game today. This is like a 6 versus 2 matchup, right? What was your kind of assessment of today's game?
yeah, I mean, early on we took an early lead, and then we hung around. I mean, we pretty much were within 4 for a long stretch of the game, and then
Yep.
yeah, so the crowd was definitely helping, like super loud. The fans were awesome. Um, like every bucket early on was just like these high intensity games are awesome. Like I love the NBA. Like their shot making stuff's way better to watch, but like the atmosphere of college basketball is so sweet. And so like come tournament time, like playing games like this is gonna help them. But yeah, they didn't shoot. They shot poorly from three today. I think they were like I don't know, like 3 of 21 or something, or 3 of 19, something like that.
I know they were 0 for 11 in the second half.
Yeah, so they didn't hit a 3 in the
3 of
second half.
19,
They had really bad shot selection in the second half too. Store, while he's a scorer, like he can really be stupid and just take like a long pull up 3, which isn't his main game. He'll make some sometimes, but he had really bad shots that led to points down the other end. And then we did hold Zach Edey pretty well, you know, the tall guy from Purdue. 7'4". He's got some skill. He's really tall. It's just like hard to defend, but they did a good job defending him. It's just their other scorers for Purdue couldn't miss. And so I think we lost because we didn't hit a 3 in the second half, and our shot selection down the end was pretty bad. Towards the end, too, the refs were a little questionable, but I mean, that's not why we lost. Like, we definitely lost because we deserved to, but there was some in the last 2 or 3 minutes, they were getting pretty picky on fouls and everything. So a couple things go our way differently. We could have won that game, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm happy Purdue's going to be a Final Four contender, so they hung with them, and we could have won. I wish it went differently, but it was a fun game. So,
yeah, worst 3-point shooting performance of the year versus the best team that you played, and everything just looked tough at the end of that game. From like my perspective, I was like, they are not getting an easy bucket anywhere. Like everything you just had to work so hard for.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what it was. Like, I think Purdue did a good job on defense, and we didn't rebound as well as we could have either. Like, they got a lot of second chance opportunities, but it is what it is. Like, I'm happy they played well. I think we could have won, and we didn't. There's a lot of Purdue fans there too, which credit to them. There was this little kid in my section who was just like, every time that Purdue did something, he just turned to the crowd and was like, "Shh," and I'm like.
Did you just give him the bird?
I know.
Did you give him like a 2 shh to him? No.
I just you can't hit a kid or anything, but
well, don't hit him. I just like yell obscenities at him or something.
No, I behave myself, but it's they were good fans too, so it was fun. And they were way up.
You don't want fans that are just like quiet, like when their team like you're in their building and winning. Like you should. Yeah. I feel like you want a little bit of smack talk coming out of somebody.
Yeah,
else.
No, you should talk crap and you should definitely like cheer. Like that was the Ohio State game this year for football. Like I was like every time we did something good, I was just getting up in their face and just like really loud and obnoxious just because they were being that to me. So it's playful banter, but I wasn't going to hit the kid, but he was pissing me off. So
very, very good.
Yeah,
very good.
The Bucks eat dirt kid. Back when we were at Bucks Miami game when Miami was the big 3, there was a kid in our section that was a big Miami fan telling us that the Bucks eat dirt,
and we couldn't really
the whole game.
We really couldn't tell him differently because we did eat dirt back then. So
yeah, it wasn't pretty. He was right. They ate dirt.
So who have you seen as like the biggest surprises on the team? I know you mentioned some guys that came in and like Store and Klesman have been good. But what are the biggest surprises? I think we can say pretty easily the biggest negative surprise would be Esijan, right? Like
Yeah.
him not having a big role on this team is a pretty big surprise. But as far as positive surprises, outside of Store and Klesmet, like, and maybe those two are the biggest ones, but like, is there somebody that's really made an impact on the team?
Yeah, so I'll just mention Klesman real quick because like he's someone who scored at Wofford. That's where he played as a freshman, and then he transferred last year. And so you can always tell he had talent, but like he's really stepped up this year. So obviously him, but if not him, like John Blackwell, the freshman, like getting good minutes, like he can defend really well, he can shoot, and he can go to the hole. He is definitely going to be a stud for us in the future, and like he's already getting minutes that we usually don't give freshmen. So it's good to see him step up. I mean, Nolan Winters, our backup center, and he still looks like a little lost out there sometimes, but he's added some good offense too. Like so he can shoot the three and just like spell Krall when Krall is in foul trouble or needs rest. So Blackwell for sure is probably the biggest positive surprise. And then just to touch on Connor again, it's like I still think he has a big role with this team, and I still think he's going to be there at the end of it all. We need him to be, but he just needs to be. He's been a great team player too, but there's going to be a time where he's going to get hot and he's going to just play a great game and he's going to get more minutes. So I still expect him to make an impact come tournament time.
Oh yeah, it looked like they were trying to use him to get it back get it back close today.
So. Yeah, and he can still. I mean, he still is. Every time he shoots it, you think it's going in. Like even when it doesn't, it still looks good. So like, it's just one of those things. He's going to be streaky because he's a shooter. So you just got to keep giving him reps and see what happens. So I'd like to see him play a little more, but also if there's other people that are doing good, like we don't have to play him as much, and I think that's fine. And it sucks with the transfer portal era too, right? Because it's like, well, if he's not going to get his shots, he's like, I'll go somewhere else, and someone will love to have me. But I'd like him to stay around, and we'll see what happens. I still think there's a big role for him, though, so we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
All right, I'm going to give you a two-parter here, and then we'll be close to the end with this. So with however many games we have left, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What do you think our record is going to be, and what kind of seed do you think that this Badger team is going to go? I'm going to make it a three-parter. And what do you think they're going to drop to after losing 2 straight? So they're the 6th seed, drop in 2 games straight. They got, 9 games left. 1 against Illinois, who's ranked 14th at home. Or no, and Purdue at Purdue. So I guess, what's the record on out? What seed are we getting? And what do you think we're going to see as a seed tomorrow? Or rank tomorrow?
Yeah. So just the rank, I'd say we probably are back to where we were. I was kind of surprised we jumped up to 6, to be honest. Like a bunch of teams in front of us lost, and I knew we should have been in the top 10, but up to number 6 was too high, obviously. There'd probably be like 15 or something. Like I don't know which teams behind them lost, but they'll definitely move back to the teens, but that's probably where they are in that sweet spot. Rest of the way, I would say if there's 9 games, I'd say we probably go 6-3, 7-2. There's a lot of weaker opponents that we definitely should handle, and I think we can beat Illinois and Purdue. Those are going to be tough. So if you chalked up those, I would probably say 6-3, and maybe if they keep skidding, maybe they lose 4. But there's a lot of the lower part of the Big Ten that they're playing that I hope that they step up because they have beat those teams this year. I mean, Nebraska, they're not amazing, but they could be a tournament team. So it's not like that was the worst loss in the world besides the fact we were up. And then the third part was what seed they'll be in the tournament?
Yes.
It will all depend because if they can reel off some wins and beat Illinois or Purdue, like they're definitely probably have like a top 3 seed in them. You said you don't want me to say they're a 4 seed, so I would say they could be a 3 seed. I don't think they'll be a 1 seed. I don't think they'll probably be a 2 seed. I
forgot I sent you that. That was a note to myself, but I did send that to you.
What? So I got a question here on the 4 seed. Like, isn't it worse to be like if we run into being a 5 seed?
Oh, it is 5-12.
Yeah, 5-12.
I was thinking, I was thinking 4-12.
5-12 and 4-13s are always ones that get upset first round. I mean, I really think this team should get to the Sweet 16. I think we're good enough, and it depends on how we're going to play. Like, I hope that we continue to play well, beat the teams we're supposed to, hang tough with Illinois and Purdue. And then if we can do that, make a run in the Big Ten tournament, then I think we'll get to the Sweet 16. I would be surprised if we lost right away. But I mean, again, we can lose to anybody, but I think we can beat a lot of teams, and I think we can beat anybody. So, I'll say we'll be a 3 seed, and I'll say we'll go 6-3 the rest of the way, and we'll probably be somewhere around 10 to 12 come like our rank going into the tournament. So I would think that'd be a 3 seed.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Because if you do look at our losses, like you said, Tennessee's tough team, lose to them at home. But other ones are like teams that play tough at home, like Providence.
Providence is a
Nebraska,
good team. Tennessee's a good team. Obviously, Tennessee's a good team. Purdue, Nebraska played good at home. I mean, we lost to Penn State on the road, too. So you're going to lose some games in the Big Ten on the road. So I'm not too worried about where they're at now. If they have a little skid here, I'll be a little bit more worried, but I think they'll turn it around, hopefully against Michigan next, and then they have some chance to get some wins before they play Illinois and Purdue. So I think they can do it, and I'm still optimistic on this team as a whole.
Awesome. 3 seed going into the tournament and winning 7 of their last 9 games. So our last question we have for you here is who's winning the Super Bowl next Sunday?
And you can't choose the Meteor.
Yeah. Well, was it last time the Super Bowl pick for me? I think I picked the Red Sox. I think I picked the Red Sox, but this time.
Oh, I forgot we did that.
Yeah, I barely made it on the show, and for some reason I had baseball in my mind, so I picked them. But I'll take the Chiefs just because like they're having a down year for them, and like Mahomes is still Mahomes. Like I think Brock Purdy's been solid, like, but I still think he's not like. I don't know. I'm not completely sold on him, and their team around him's so good, but there's just something about the Chiefs, and like I think they're gonna win, and then the confetti's gonna fall, and then Travis Kelce's gonna get on one knee and propose to Taylor Swift, and the world's gonna shit their pants, and it's gonna go crazy. So that's my conspiracy theory thing. And then no, I hope it's a good game.
Do you think this is planned too, Kevin?
No, definitely don't. But it'd be funny like to see that happen. I don't know. I want to see a good game. I think either team can win, but I'll just take the Chiefs. And what's the spread on the game? Do you guys have that? Or
I think it opened at San Francisco -2, and now it might be 1.
It's basically a pick 'em, right? So it's like Mahomes or 49ers, who should win. They're the better team, but 1 game sample. So I don't know. Who do you guys have? Or you're not making your picks yet?
Well, we haven't even talked about it yet.
So like I don't.
I'm leaning San Francisco right now, I will say. Just because I think there's too many people that I hear. That's how my betting brain works. Is I've heard too many people say the Chiefs, so I just fade it. So I've sucked at betting this year, though.
Yeah, so I am in the Chiefs camps mostly because of the way the Niners defense has played lately, and that could change real quick, right? Like somebody could like throw a stat out that I'm like, oh, that's it, Niners are going to win it. And then I think that while Purdy is good, he is a liability to that team. Like he's probably one of the like pieces that could make the mistake on that team, right? And so that's where I feel with Purdy. Like not that he's not good, like I don't want to tear him down, but I just feel like if there's going to be a mistake, it's coming from him on that offense.
Yep. I'll throw out my Gatorade color. I'll just say it's orange. I don't know why. There's bet on that. That's probably got good odds.
So we got 2 red teams. So don't you think
because you're a red team, why would you have to have red Gatorade? It's like whatever people want. I mean, no, you got to look back.
It's the best flavor too.
The Chiefs. I don't know what it was the last 2 times they won, but you should probably look at what that was. I'm just guessing orange because I like the orange one and whatever.
All right. So if you're listening to Kevin, you bet on the Badgers in 7 of the last 9 games. Take the Chiefs, orange Gatorade. But as always, Kevin, thank you for coming on,
Appreciate
catching
it,
us
Kevin.
up on our Badgers stuff. We love you, buddy. And thank you.
Yeah. Take care. Thanks for having me on.
Now, welcoming to the show our second UW Madison graduate, second place in the handstand championship, third place in the tractor pull in Toma. Our buddy that goes to the most Bucks games out of anybody we know, coming back to the show for his 4th time. We have K9 Kyle. How you doing, K9 Kyle?
Good. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing good. We're doing good. We're drinking beers out of glasses. Mike's drinking monsters.
Yeah, like alcoholic monsters.
So-
I'd say. I don't think they have any caffeine, but they taste real good if you're interested.
I hate energy drinks, so I'm assuming I'd hate that, but happy for
Yeah,
you.
that's
though.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. They would not be good.
It sounds awful. I've turned into a pour the beer in the glass guy.
Oh, yeah.
I think I just turned into it. Yes. You've been on that kick?
Oh yeah, especially with like craft beers or like nicer beers. But like last night I had a couple
Like
craft,
Miller
and then
Lite.
I was pouring my Miller Lite in a cup after. So
That's
cheers.
what we got. But so when we bring Kyle on, we bring him on to talk about the Bucks. And Kyle, we'll get right to it. So Mike and I have kind of been out of the loop just following the Packers, and we tuned back into the Bucks after the Packers get knocked out. Bucks fire Adrian Griffin, hire Doc Rivers. Let us know everything that we missed. Like, why did that move happen with the Bucks being, pretty good record, second in the East, shit like that.
Well, yeah, I think last time I was on, they were 10 games in, and they were like 6-4, and I was pretty pessimistic at that time, or I was complaining a lot more than I think I normally would have. Right, as the team looked disconnected, the defense was horrible, offense wasn't performing as well as it could have. So then the month of December, the Bucks kind of rebound a bit, go on a nice hot streak. I think they were like 11-2 or something like that. So they look like they're kind of coming together, but they also had a really easy schedule, so that probably explains a bunch of the wins there. And they're a good team, right? They win because they have good talent, like the Giannis and Dame. It's going to be a good team no matter what. But then New Year hits. January they drop like 3 or 4, 2 to the Pacers. And they just look, even in their wins, they just look disconnected. They can't keep it going. They aren't beating bad teams by 20 or 30 like they should be. And then right before Griffin gets fired, they barely beat the Pistons 2 games in a row. Obviously the worst team in the league. I think they won 6 games total. So yeah, it just wasn't clicking. And I think they realized that they were not going to be able to win the championship with the rookie head coach. I think he might have been getting some of the blame for the players being bad too, or not being as good as they should have been, but they didn't seem very competent, and the coaching is a big reason why. So fire Griffin, go a couple games before they hire Doc Rivers. I don't know what the deal is there, like why they dragged that out longer than they needed to, but they've just started a 5-game road trip when Doc took over, so they're 1-3 now. They lost to the Jazz tonight, but had a really good win last night against the Mavs after being down by 25. So just a really up and down team. But I think going back to the question about the record, like the record was good, but it was kind of beating up on some bad teams and winning, in spite of coaching and other things like that. So I think I'm still positive, or at least a little optimistic. I think this team they could win the championship, and they could get out in the first round. Like there's a lot of variation, I think. So, but ultimately, they still have 2 of the best players in the league, so that's a big piece right there.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know if I noticed that when they fired Griffin, they played the Cavs twice. With who was coaching?
Yeah, so they had a weird schedule. So they played the Cavs 1 game. Giannis sat out. They got blown out by like 40 points. Cavs are a good team, but they shouldn't be getting blown up by anyone that bad. I mean, it happens in the NBA once in a while, but just an awful game. Then they played the Pistons 2 games in a row. Worst team in the league. Didn't look great. Like, still won because it's a bad team that they beat. Then they played the Cavs 2 more times, but then that was Griffin got fired right before the second and third
Right
Cavs
after the
games.
Pistons.
Yeah, right after the Pistons games. So
Okay. That is interesting. Do you know what the like initiative to like playing so many games or so many teams back to back this year? Is that like kind of the in season tournament kind of messing with the schedule and then just figuring out like where we're going to put these games so we'll just put them back to
no,
back?
I think the NBA.
Seems smart to
Yeah, I
me.
think the NBA is trying to do more of that because it makes it more like a series, like hey, you play a game two times or a team 2 times in a row, so maybe you make adjustments in the second game and kind of they do it more, I think, with rivalry type games. I mean, not like the Cavs are a huge rival, but they're in our division. So I think it's like a scheduling initiative thing. I don't know if it's the in-season tournament also screws up things up too, right? Because we end up playing some teams 5 times. We played the Pacers 5 times already. I think we're going to play the Knicks 5 times this year too. So like that's part of it, I guess, too. But
I swear until the Portland game, I've seen I think it was 2 Knicks games. So like that was
yeah,
every time I was tuning in on national TV, it was Knicks
yeah,
games.
they had a back-to-back versus the Knicks, or they played on the 23rd and they played on Christmas. And so yeah, they're doing more of that type of stuff. But
I guess too, though, like it kind of makes sense with say it's like a band coming to town or like a comedian, like he's gonna be here 3 nights or something like that. So Giannis is gonna be in town 2 nights in a row. So if you can't come see him Thursday, you get to see him Saturday.
yeah,
You can
probably that
it's
too,
like
because especially when there's a lot of teams that rest players, like you only get so many chances to see guys in your town. So if Giannis sat one game, maybe you catch him the next game, kind of thing. So like,
yeah.
I think that's probably part of it too.
Yeah, I don't know why, but that just kind of interests me when I was like looking back at the schedule. So, with everything we got going forward, I mean, you kind of answered it pretty broadly, but I guess like what do we need to see as this team? I know they're the second seed in the East, still have a good record, but like what does this team need to do to make you feel better going up against, I guess, I would say almost down. And I haven't been watching way too much NBA this year, but like down to probably the Knicks, like where it feels like they can get bounced with these teams in the East.
Yeah, well, and they're second in the East right now, but it's like by half a game, I think. Like we're 5 games behind the Celtics, and then the Cavs and Knicks are right behind us. The Sixers have fallen off, and Embiid's going to be out for a while, so I'm less worried about them, I guess. Um, but yeah, I think with making a coaching change mid-season, there's just a lot of you don't get a lot of practice time in the middle of the year, so like Doc has to kind of help clean up some of the flaws and schematic issues that Griffin had put in place. Griffin was basically hired. It's kind of a weird hire if you think about it, right? Like he's a rookie head coach. That's the type of coach you want to have with a young team, with a team that's not trying to compete for a championship, and maybe you're trying to build habits. And like his defense was like an aggressive scheme to try and like get turnovers and things like that. And we've a pretty old team, right? Like these guys have been around and been together for a while for most of the team anyway. And it just didn't make sense. And he kind of just stuck to his principles, which it makes sense if you're going to have a 2 or 3 year project, but not if you're all in on championship. And partially he was hired before we got Dame. So, maybe it made a little more sense when you have Drew Holiday as a good defender, but regardless, he didn't really tailor it to the team that he has. So with Doc, he's going to put in some more, I think, better defense that will suit the players. They were guarding really high up on the 3-point line, and as a result, like because they're an older team, people were blowing by them, going right to the basket. So they've already they haven't fully changed the defense because it's hard to do overnight, but you can tell they're already changing that a little bit. Like in the Mavs game, it's a good example. They were double teaming Luka a lot yesterday, and it worked pretty well because if you're going to have someone beat you, you don't want it to be Luka. You want some scrub in the Mavs to shoot instead of him. So they didn't do that a whole lot under Griffin. So that was like a small change they made. So I'd like to see them keep making those type of changes, and just build on good habits and things like that. And I think it's going to take a few weeks. Like the All-Star break is in middle of February, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them kind of start to click until after then. They're on a road trip right now, so that's a tough way to start Doc's term. Is 5 road games in a row against good teams like the Nuggets, and then I got the Suns, and the Mavs are a decent team. Jazz aren't pushovers either. So, but then the trade deadline's coming up soon too. So I think they probably need to make a move to get. You could see them going a few different ways, but probably a better defensive wing or something to just help stop the bleeding. Dame's not a great defender, so you want to have a guy out on the edge that can actually like pressure and do a lot better. But then you also could argue their bench unit has been awful, so they need some more scoring from the bench. So I think that they're looking for people. The problem is we don't have a lot of assets. Gave up a lot in various trades to get Drew, to get Dame. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. But I'd like to see them make some kind of move to change the status quo.
And who do you think gets put into a package to make this?
Well,
grease the wheels on this?
And that's the hardest part is we don't have a lot of good options. Most packages would have to be basically around Bobby or Pat Connaughton, maybe Marjan or Andre Jackson, the younger guys. I'd hate to give those guys up for short-term gains if it's just because they have at least some potential. Whereas Bobby can still score, but he takes the ball out of Giannis's and Dame's hands a lot. So I don't like the way he's been playing recently. It's tough because he's a fan favorite, but just has not been good this year on the whole, I would say. Pat Connaughton's just looks off, like has not looked good this year either. So those guys make a lot of salary and you can ship them out for matching salaries. But again, we probably have to give up a couple of second-round picks. That's all we really can give up. We don't have any firsts to play with unless we somehow get back a first from a prior trade to make it worse. And that gets complicated from there. But yeah.
Yeah, it's rough with only 2 rounds in the draft, like giving up shit that you don't really have yet. So you got to go into years of the future.
Yeah, I mean,
they've
traded so many firsts too. Like I forget how many total between Dame and Drew's trades, but like let's say 5 or 6 firsts that like we don't have a first round pick until I don't know 2029, 2030, something like that. Like, which I mean, and again, we don't really need them because we're championship or bust mode every year, but still, it's hard to get deals done without it.
So my dumb question here would be: so how long do we have Dame for? That wasn't like a 1 year.
No, we have him under contract this year, next, and I think the following year. So.
Oh yeah, so screw the picks.
Yeah,
then.
So, yeah.
That's
and same thing too. Giannis signed his extension early in the year, which was great. So he's under contract. Like if things go south and we do bad in the playoffs this year and don't look good going into next year, okay, you might hear some talk of unhappiness or shipping Dame or Giannis out like that. I mean, that would obviously be a worst case scenario kind of thing that I don't even want to think about. But it's
and I think sorry, go ahead.
So I mean, I think they have this year to at least try and show some improvement, get out of the first round, hopefully get to a conference finals or the NBA finals is the goal, obviously. But like I said, I can see it either way. When they look good, they look awesome. And when they look bad, they look confused and like they don't know what they're doing. So
is it a chemistry issue or is it a scheme issue?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some chemistry where like Dame has been I feel like he defers to people a lot. Or other times people forget that Dame's on the floor and he should be the guy shooting the wide open threes, not Bobby Portis or Jay Crowder, whoever. I mean, those guys can make threes, obviously, but they're not Damian Lillard. But
right.
Yeah, sometimes like Giannis doesn't set really hard screens for Dame at all. Like he kind of just half-asses it, and they still have pretty effective pick and rolls. They just don't run them a whole lot. And again, I'm not like an X's and O's guys, but I can still see like they don't always look on. Sometimes the Mavs game, they looked awesome once they started pulling together. And I think that's what they can look like and what they hope to get to. And they still have a few months to build to that. But I think it's been frustrating just that it's taken, we're already 3 or 4 months into the season. And it's still a work in progress. But so definitely some chemistry. I think switching coaches too. Like now they're gonna have to come up with new plays or build off of old plays.
Yeah.
That kind of use, maybe concepts that Doc has built in, but I don't know. It's when they still don't seem like a lost cause. They still seem like they have fun when they're winning and that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're like a little less optimistic than I thought you were going to be. I thought you were going to just tell me everything's okay. We're going to be good. But one sec, I want to get to. So Mike talked about like chemistry, like on the floor, but I don't know. I know you stay a little bit more plugged in, but you haven't heard any like rumblings, like in the locker room, like these guys don't get along.
No, I don't.
Shit like that.
I think that all the rumblings you heard early in the season were like they don't trust Griffin. They think this guy's an idiot, or like they hated his schemes and it didn't fit the personnel. That's what the rumblings were. I mean, and that came to a head obviously with Doc. I think with Doc now, the players respect him. He obviously had a championship before, so they know he's done it. It was 15 years ago at this point, but I think he commands a little
And
more
with
respect. So like I don't get that sense that like Dame and Giannis hate playing with each other. I think they like playing with each other. I think they're just trying to feel it out. Dame's been going through like a divorce too and some other personal stuff, so like that's really tough. He's away from his kids for the first time because I think they're still in Portland. So like that personal stuff seems to be affecting him because he's playing well. He's still an all-star, but he's not the old Dame, and I don't think he necessarily will be or needs to be because in Portland he was the only guy, right? And we have Giannis,
even
who
when
is,
he wasn't
is
the
guy.
only guy, he was the guy, right? So like,
Yeah, right.
I think they had a guy who went to the Spurs who was pretty good. I can't think of
He started his career with LaMarcus
McCollum?
Aldridge.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then him and CJ McCollum were good together too.
But he was always the dude, and the other guy was the secondary dude.
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily. I think he knows that he's not the guy. Because if anything, I'd like to see him be more aggressive. And Giannis, sometimes I think Giannis is like, "Hey man, give me the ball," and like he needs to also take a step back sometimes. But I don't know. I think they still show really good flashes, and I am optimistic to a point. I coming in here when an hour ago, and I was thinking about getting ready for the pod. We were up by like 19 points against the Jazz, about to win back-to-back games on the road. They looked really good, so I was like, I was feeling really good. So I don't know if I'm colored by just losing a shit game, blowing a huge lead, but
yeah, and like you said, it's been a couple bad ones, but I do think you can chalk stuff up to, you get a brand new coach right when you're going on a West Coast trip.
Yeah.
And like you already said, it goes Nuggets, and then you have like an emotionally charged game. I didn't know about like the divorce stuff. I don't know if I would even hammer on that. But then he goes back to Portland, so I'm sure he gets to see his kids. And like, yeah, there's got to be something fucking with your head in a game like that. And that one was still like a pretty good game against a pretty dog crap Portland team.
Yeah, I mean, I expect them to lose. Like their schedule just gets tough, and I don't expect them to rip off like a 7-game win streak like anytime soon while they're still figuring out these concepts. So it's just frustrating to watch when they do like win a game or lead a game for a while and then blow it. But yeah, I think the East has opened up a bit. Like the Celtics are clearly the best team, but the Sixers being hurt, like I don't see that them being as much of a threat. The Cavs and Knicks are good, but I think when push comes to shove and you play the guys way more in the playoffs, like Giannis is on the floor the whole time and we have the best player in those series. So you should be able to beat those teams. And I think the Celtics have some flaws too. Like they're not like perfect. They have a lot of the old flaws we had as a Bucks team where their offense kind of sucks in the last 5 minutes. And they struggle to get buckets or they take tough shots, and that comes to a head in the playoffs. And again, they're the most complete team there is. That's our threat to us, but there's definitely some vulnerabilities, and we can make a run for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think the Bucks. I guess let me ask you that then. So, do you think this Bucks team took a step back from last year? Then,
no, I don't think so. So I think that you have to put that in context too, right? Where we had a horrible first round loss. it was tough because Giannis was hurt. Like I think people kind of gloss over that. If Giannis doesn't get hurt, we
Yeah.
should win that series, and who knows how far we get. But we were going into the season with the same team again. We would have had Drew, Brooke, Chris, and Giannis, and we'd be running it back, and I don't think much would have changed. So I don't know how the problems we had weren't going to change at all. And with Dame coming in, the offense, even with our struggles we have one of the top like 3 offenses in the league. Maybe it's fallen off a little bit the last few games, but like our offense still looks great. And when we turn it on and we score a lot of points, that's how we win games. And on the flip side too, our defenses looked a hell of a lot better with Doc too. So, or like the last 6 or 7 games. So that bodes well for when they get in the playoffs. They'll hopefully, not be turnstiles on defense and things like that. So they're definitely fixable things. And I think, as far as taking a step back, like Giannis and Dame is just a better combination than Giannis and Chris, for example. Like Chris is older and he can still get buckets, but he just can't play with the same intensity all games. Drew Holiday had limitations on offense that, he made up for on defense. But even
Yeah.
then, like with the Heat series, he got like roasted by Jimmy Butler the entire series. So it's like, well, if he can't do the thing he's supposed to do, then, I don't know. So I still like the move. And I like, if it doesn't work out this year, we still have next year to kind of figure it out. And I don't know what the offseason looks like. It's going to depend on how they do in the playoffs, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say they're going to make a deep run because I do think that was like the one thing that the Heat could do better than most teams against us is just take Giannis completely out of the game. Where I just, or on the offensive side of the floor, where I just don't think that's as much of an issue when you have Dame and Chris
Yeah.
still.
Right.
Because like Chris would have rough games when they would do that. And he knew he had to be the dude.
Yeah.
And he was sometimes. I mean, everybody's seen that. But now it's like he doesn't even have to necessarily be the dude. He still can be it, but hopefully it goes to Dame.
Yeah.
And then if Dame can't do it, then Chris can.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Like having,
and Brooke.
yeah, exactly. Like you just kind of, the offensive options move down one peg, right? So like now Chris is the third option. He's a hell of a third option. Dame being on the floor, like opens up things so much for Giannis. And honestly, Giannis is having like a fantastic season. One of his best yet. And I think part of that's because the floor is opened up for him. And I still like our odds. Like in the East, like any series we play, especially if Embiid's out, like we still should have the best player on the floor in any of these series. Like it should be Giannis. We need Dame to be a bit better. He's been kind of streaky on his shooting. Or he's not shooting as well as he has. So that's another thing too, where he didn't get as much off-season work in apparently, just knowing he was probably going to be traded, and then like didn't get to open camp with Portland, all that stuff. I think he just wasn't in like playing shape right away. So he's some games he's getting there. The Mavs game, he looked awesome. He missed like one shot, but then tonight he was like, I don't know, 5 for 20, let's say. And that's going to happen when you have a guy that shoots that much, but we haven't got a whole lot of awesome Dame games where he just goes off for like 40 or 50. Like, and I think it's tough when you have Giannis because he's always going to take the ball away from him a bit. But I think he still has that in him. He can do that, especially in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I personally haven't watched as much Bucks basketball as you, but I think maybe that hasn't poisoned my brain as much.
Yeah.
But I do think like a lot of the things that you're saying is like it just hasn't been enough time. I think people expect that shit to happen a little bit quicker than it really does happen, and I think this Bucks team is going to be fine.
Yeah.
But we will try to wrap here pretty quick. So I'm going to ask you 2 more questions, but I'm going to do them one at a time. So what do you expect for the rest of the season? Like what seed, I guess, to make it easier, what seed do we end up with going into the playoffs here?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see them taking over the Celtics for the 1 seed. It's just them being 5 games ahead is just tough because our schedule is going to be hard the rest of the year too. I would expect them to hold the 2nd seed. It kind of bunches up between 2, 3, and 4. So I think for sure they should be in the top half. I think they should finish second, maybe third, and I'd be fine with either of those. Obviously, the higher seed, you want to have home court advantage in any series, but I would just say second if I had to pick. I think they figured it out a little bit.
I like it. All right, and then our last question to take it home with you: who's winning the Super Bowl next Sunday?
Chiefs for sure. I'm not doubting Patrick Mahomes. I haven't heard you guys on any of the Super Bowl stuff yet, so I'll have to listen in. But I don't know. I don't want to count them out. And maybe people are writing off the 49ers because they struggled to win their last 2 games. But the Chiefs defense is pretty good. And I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes. Like, yeah, they could lose. They could get their ass kicked. But I don't know. I see it maybe being a closer game and the Chiefs pulling it out.
I picked the Chiefs as well.
Yeah.
Mike, who do you have?
I am on the Chiefs, right? Like, so that's where I'm falling currently.
Okay, and you've already explained every reason why you.
So, but I can explain it to Kyle too. Like,
no,
I'm just
no, because it'll be twice on the same episode.
People need to know this is like the standard, right? But I just think that Brock is like the guy who makes the errors, So
yeah, he's so frustrating because I don't know.
It's good and bad at the same time, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
To
like
some extent,
he could make me look stupid for saying it. I don't think he's all that great. Like I think he shows flashes at times, but like he makes a lot of dumb mistakes. And the Packers were unlucky to lose that game. The Lions were unlucky. The Lions weren't unlucky. I think they just like shit the bed. But
a little bit of unluckiness and shitting the bed, and then San Francisco. Mike and I talked about it last game. It's the difference between a pretty good team and a really good team.
Yeah.
Detroit was pretty good, but
that's a perfect way
they shit down their leg, and then San Francisco took advantage of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, clearing up our Bucks mind. So I'm going to be locked in now. I'm going to turn into the expert. But thank you as always for coming on, Kyle. We love you. And you got anything for closing?
No, I don't have anything to plug. I don't have any pods or other appearances. This is pretty much my only stop.
Use Deloitte. Use Deloitte if you're rich and you need an accountant. I haven't
worked at Deloitte for like 8 years.
I know, but I didn't know if it was like Artisans Company or
Artisans.
Like
that's what I work for. So
okay, use Artisans if you're really rich and you need an accountant.
Invest in our 401k, or like if you have a 401k, see if you got some artisan funds that you can invest in.
That's what I'm doing. But yes, like I said, thank you for coming on.
Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Yep.
And those were our interviews with Kerry Blue Kevin talking a little Badgers basketball, and K9 Kyle catching us up on the Bucks. Appreciate those guys coming on. They definitely pay closer attention to those two teams while the football season's still going on. But talking about football season, we got some Packers news, and I'm going to kick that to Mike with our defensive coordinator hire here. So, Mike, what do you got?
All right, so the Packers hired Jeff Hafley, and really his like scheme or like ideals is like pressure, right? Is to pressure the corner or the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage, and I'm pretty interested to see kind of how everything shakes out. It sounds like our run game defensive side of the ball is gone, and he's going to retain some other people and brings like some guys are being retained, obviously like that's the way it's going to go. And then he's going to bring in some new blood as well in order to kind of finalize it out. He has run a 4-3 historically through like his pro and college stuff. However, I don't know that he will change our overall defense. I'm just not sure about where that goes there. However, he does feel like a guy that is excited about teaching football to guys, and that's kind of why he left Boston College. He was the former head coach at BC and didn't like the, I guess, politics of that or the recruiting, transfer portal, that kind of piece of it, and wants to just get back to dealing with football and not the boosters and bullshit that comes in college football.
Yeah, my speculation on it would be, I mean, it seems pretty obvious. It's going to be tough to be a college football coach, and it's going to be tough to be a college football coach in a conference that's not the Big Ten or SEC.
Well, and
with
and on top of that, like even in a big conference, he is the low man in the big conference. I think that there is an opportunity to like feel real success in that, and even with the transfer portal taking the majority of your really high end players, right? And that is that you're developing that player to go to the next level. You have to understand that there's going to be levels in college football, and those levels are going to create like guys that jump to those levels, right? So you jump from the bottom level to the top level. And you're going to, as a coach, have to be okay with your top player being like, I'm out of here. I'm headed to Ohio State from Boston College, and just be like, that's what I wanted. I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to end up in the NFL. He spent 2 years here and then transferred out. He learned the things he needed to from me, and now he's onto this slightly higher level in college football.
But that is tough though, like when you're on the bottom of the top.
And that's where
So
right where
I could
he's
see
at, right?
that. Yeah, because I could see that, like if you're the coach of Rice University in Texas, or like
Toledo, or
I don't know,
Boise
yeah,
State, or Fresno
something like
State,
that,
or
like a max school. But yeah, basically he's gonna have that guy jump ship, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Florida State, and then that kid's gonna be kicking his ass the next year. So yeah,
now
that would
creating
be tough.
like, and then I think on top of that, and I talked about this just a bit on the other podcast, is that you're looking for guys that are exceptionally loyal, right? So the guys who jump ship for in basketball is a much better example. Like I think it's IMG Academy. It's located in Florida, I believe. Like if you're jumping ship for that, like Wisconsin might not want that guy because he might be willing to jump ship for Kentucky when they call, or Kansas when they call, or Duke when they call, right? So like Wisconsin is in the mid-level of the elites. And so they're in a tough spot.
They're upper
right?
middle class for sure.
But they also do have the opportunity to scoop up some of those guys that are coming from the low level. And Boston College would have that same opportunity, is that, oh, like you're leaving, I don't know, William and Mary. Like we're going to take you because we know you're a really high-end player and we can compete with you here. Now, rebuilding your team every 2 years is going to be challenging, but you have to embrace that challenge. If you don't embrace that challenge and you just bitch about that challenge all the time, like then you can never succeed. If you embrace the challenge, which is going to be hard to do, like I'm not pretending that this is like an easy jump, but you have to embrace what college football is in order to be successful in college football. And I think that a guy like Nick Saban even realized this isn't the college football that I became successful in. I don't really want to be here anymore. I'm out.
Yeah. I do think though it's in, let me preface this, like I don't think we know that much about Jeff Hafley. I don't know if you got any of that information from like factual like interviews or anything.
So I saw it
because I would say that was mostly on my end. It was all speculating on like why that job would be shitty and why you wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I heard that from his mouth. I did hear like the coverage and like the scheme side of things, like letting players play and being aggressive. That is his style. I did see that come from his mouth. Now, whether he's that in the pros or not, I don't know. But like that's the way he operated at Ohio State and at Boston College.
But yeah, that's what I want to get into for just like a hot second is so we've been hearing like, oh, the floor 3, but I don't know if it's at the point where it's like it's cyclical in football where 4 threes are going to come back and be effective. But in my mind, even since I was a kid, I was just never sold on a 4-3. Like I know we ran it
Probably
for a
until
long
the mid
time,
2000s.
but yeah, but I just once I realized how much more unpredictable you could be out of a 3-4, I just was like, why would anybody go back to this? And then even how effectively you could stop the run in a nickel. So I don't think it's going to be he comes into town and just be able to be like, hey, we're going to put 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers. That's how we're going to roll for the rest of this thing. But I don't think that's what he's going to do. But I do like the idea of more man coverage and more pressure. Because I think when you bring pressure, you got to bring man, or you got to play man. You got to be able to play man. I mean, you definitely can blitz in zone, but I think you also have to be able to play
man. So I'm excited about the change. I mean, as long as Halfley's not a halfwit like Joe Barry was, and yes, I worked on that one for at least a bit for sure. And I am pretty happy with it, but I do feel kind of shitty calling Joe Barry a halfwit, especially the way he coached the last 2 playoff games. But I think that like I'm excited about that. I do feel like there's this opportunity for us to look worse, especially since what we did against the Cowboys and the Niners was pretty remarkable. It was like really good games out of the defense. So I think we have the opportunity to look worse, especially early on. But I'm excited for an aggressive style of like, if you beat me, and I'll let my offense like run down and get more points.
Yeah, just getting aggressive. All right, that will wrap up our Packers talk. And we are going to just move on to the Brewers real quick, just because we had big stuff happen with the Brewers. So, Brewers trade Corbin Burns to the Baltimore Orioles for shortstop prospect. Well, I mean, I guess they've played a little bit of MLB time, but for Joey Ortiz, shortstop prospect, 25 years old, and then left-handed pitcher DL Hall, who is also 25 years old. Just digging into these guys, the very little bit that I did, got some of their MLB time last year. So this I'm only bringing up just because it's a little bit more interesting to me. So Joey Ortiz for Baltimore in the majors hit 212 in 33 at bats. So not much of a MLB experience there. And whatever, you're hitting 212 and 33 at bats. Like I'm not worried about that. The only thing I found funny was his on base percentage was 206. So his batting average was 212 and his on base percentage was 206. So I don't even know how.
So it's got to be like a sac fly, right? Type thing, or like an error on an. No, because that would
sac flies wouldn't go as an at bat.
So he should have got a hit.
It would be errors.
No, because errors would put you on base, which your on base percentage would be higher.
But I don't think errors count for.
I think your on base percentage is like how often do you get on base, where your average doesn't count towards your errors.
You answered the question for me. I think that's what it had to be. He probably got on an error, and I don't think errors help your on base percentage. Walks and hits help your on base, and hit by pitch help your on base percentage. But errors, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we're not going to look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure that's what it had to have been. Unless I definitely didn't read the number wrong because I looked at it a couple times because I thought it looked funny. Yeah. But I do think you answered the question is like he must have got on with an error, or what I was looking at was wrong. That's a very possible reason
that
for
they
that to happen.
mistyped it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's go down to his AAA stats last year. So he hit 321 and had an on-base percentage of 378, hit 9 dingers, had 58 RBIs in 88 games. So he was an absolute stud in AAA. So looking forward to that. And with that being said, I just got a notification today that it looks like Willie Adames is on the trading block. So I think this might be the reason why he is on the trading block. Not saying he's going to be able to step in and produce
They
like
said he's a
Adames did, but
stud
Adames was
defensively,
kind
this
of
Ortiz. That's what I
okay.
saw. I mean,
Okay, that is good to know as well, because I didn't look in too much into defensive stats, because I feel like it's all eye test with baseball, like defensive stats wise, and scouting reports. So if you heard that, that makes me feel better. Looking at his picture, does look like he could pick him. He's a dude from California, so the cool dude could get out there and get it. But then we have the other guy we got in the trade, DL Hall. So he was 3-0 in the majors. There was too much stats in the minor leagues, but where I even thought his major league stats were impressive. So he didn't have a start, but like I said, he was 3-0. He had 18 appearances, and he had a 3.26 ERA as a major leaguer last year. So that is a pretty good sign to see. I guess I don't really know. I guess I didn't look that up. If we expect him to be a starter down the line, or if we just expect him to be like a bullpen arm. But that's my bad. I didn't even think of that.
I would
right
imagine
now.
that our like scheme, like what we do with our bullpen and shit like that, without Greg, will be a little bit different.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I don't know if we have aspirations of him starting for us in the future. Because we gave up Burns for him, I assumed off the top of my head, I was like, oh, we must have got like a guy who we think is going to be able to start for us. But I don't know if that is to be fact. And then we got the 34th overall pick in the 2024 draft, which we kind of had this conversation in text message. I don't know if you participated too much, but it did seem like with what happened last year with Burns and arbitration, and it looked like we just kind of like pissed him off. And I also do think, granted, I do not like the move that Greg Counsell made, but I do think there was some front office stuff. Like they might have been telling him, he's like, we're not going to be able to pay your Burnses and your stuff like that. So we're going to have to refresh the guys, let them go somewhere else and get paid and get younger again. And I am looking at the stuff that we've been doing. I really like what we're doing. I don't think our pitching staff's going to be as good.
How can it be?
It'd be almost, almost impossible to be losing a Cy Young in Burns. And I love Corbin Burns. He's one of my favorite Brewers, and I think he always will be. But I do like kind of the direction this team's going with just getting younger, and I guess I'll go to the free agent that's been popping up the most. So I think it's probably our biggest free agent signing that we have had. I guess I didn't look into like pitchers too much, but we get Rice Hoskins.
First baseman.
He was a Phillies dude. Yeah, first baseman, Phillies guy. I don't think he played last year. I forgot. I didn't look up all of his stuff, but on his career, so he hit 242, 148 home runs. And I want to say in the 2022 season, he hit like 260 with upper 20s of home runs, maybe 30s. 34 is ringing a bell to me. So that's a solid one. And then in the Brewers system, we have our boy Tyler Black, who is coming up. He's going to be at spring training this year. And he's been in Double A, so I got to see him play for the Shuckers. But he's a third baseman slash first baseman. So if ultimately he can end up being the guy, that would be great. Uh, but yeah, it does look like, oh shit. Yeah. No, Tyler Black's third baseman. So to me right now, it looks like our defense and lineup is pretty set, and it looks like it could be pretty decent.
All right.
Do you want me to
No,
list some?
I don't think we need to do that just yet. I think it could change, right? So if we're moving Adamas and we're making some moves there, like our pitching should change a little bit, and our infield should change a little bit. I'm assuming Ortiz is going to be our starter at shortstop, where Adamas is someplace else, which disappoints me to some extent. And then on another level is like, all right, let's go, let's refresh the team, let's figure out how we win with this team. And that's where I wish we had Craig Counsell, because I think he looks at the game and he's like, this is how I win with this particular team. Where some managers don't do that. They're just like, go out there and play baseball, And hopefully we got a guy that looks at the game and says, if I do this and this and this on a consistent basis, we're going to end up winning more games than we lose.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a great point though with Adamas being on the trading block, because I think that's gotta go for pitching right now. Because with the prospects that we have and stuff, yeah, I do think our pitching rotation, something I haven't looked into too deep yet, because I can't remember if Woodruff is going to be out for a long period of time, but I feel like he is. And that's going to be our ace that's gone. But I will say, and I'll try not to be too long winded here, but I think our lineup looks better than it's looked in a long time. And I think our defense is going to be great with what we have going on the field right now. So I'm looking forward to this season. I think we took a step back in pitching. I think we took a step up in the lineups or whatever, batting, hitting, whatever you want to call it, with our young guys having more time now and just getting to grow into better players. And Jackson Chiro, Sal Frelick, Garrett Mitchell in the outfield, like great outfield right there. If they can stay healthy, I don't know. There's just a lot of upside. But I guess that being said, there's kind of a lot of like question marks in that. I'm just assuming they're all going to be great, but that's not how it always is.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like guys to be, top end guys. I don't know if that's always the case. I was trying to look and see if like Woodruff had something coming that I didn't know about, but I can't find it very quickly. So there's that.
No.
I just saw something about some Raynaud's syndrome or whatever. I don't know what that is. But then there's like some murder shit. Some youth was convicted of a horrific crime of killing his parents or something. So I don't think that's our pitcher.
No, I don't think that's Brandon Woodruff, but
it is Brandon Woodruff. It's just
Mike.
not the pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. I assume.
So last I knew, so undergoes shoulder surgery, likely to miss all of the 2024 season. So we're not going to have Woodruff next year. So it's going to be a young team.
All right, so like
into it. I didn't realize he was going to miss the whole season.
Let's just like touch on our starting five from last year, which would have been like Woodruff, Peralta, Burns. I'm trying to like there was
Ashby.
Okay, and there was their old dude, right? Like
Hauser.
I felt like we had like a guy that left us, came back, but was old when he got to us too. Played for the Diamondbacks, I feel like in my
Wade Miley.
Was he a Diamondbacks guy? I can't remember.
I think we got him from
All right,
Toronto.
but I think he's been all over,
yeah.
right? But is he with the team again this year?
So right now it looks like our pitching staff is going to be Freddie Peralta, Wade Miley, Joe Ross, Colin Ray, and Robert Gasser. But our bullpen looks like it's going to be pretty electric with Devin Williams coming back. I always messed up this guy's name, Joel Pymps, Abner Uribe, and then Hoagie Milner. But yeah, whatever.
No,
we don't
have
to
to list them all off.
The whole roster.
Like I was just wondering, like kind of where our starting rotation was at, and so seems down compared to last year. But like,
yeah,
maybe I'm just ignorant too.
For sure,
like, it could be better than last year.
No, it seems shaky for sure. But we have been talking here for a while. Had 2 interviews in this one, so I think we're gonna have to wrap it up. But as always, we love you guys. Thank you for the support. Please go out, like, subscribe, download on other devices like Mike will tell you. And Mike, what else do you got?
If you're doubting the Packers, the Brewers, the Bucks, or the Badgers, you can eat our shorts. Roll it.
All them suckers that doubted the Packers can't eat my shorts. All them suckers that doubted the Packers can't eat my shorts. Beat them. All them suckers that doubted the Packers can't eat my shorts. Eat my shorts.